Mixing with my plugin of the week comes from Softube. It's the Weiss EQMP. MP stands for minimum phase. It's an adaptation of the famous Weiss EQ1, which is an identical code replication of the hardware Weiss EQ1, which was released in 1996 and is a digital standard for equalization in mastering houses all over the world. So this, now translated into plugin form, is really more appropriate for mastering, just given the CPU load and all of those sorts of things. But in mixing may not be so practical. Hence, what we have is the Weiss EQMP. MP stands for minimum phase. So instead of giving you the full linear phase version, which would be much more CPU intensive, they're giving you something that still sounds incredible, but also is light enough on the CPU that you can use it across the whole mix and still have the flexibility and just precision detail of equalization that you get from the mastering version. Now, the interface is pretty straightforward. You have the normal browser stuff up here. You can toggle through the presets. There's a quick way to get to your presets, or you can open up the preset collection if you want to kind of search a little bit more in detail. So that allows you to dive into that. We have a whole A/B, so there's an A/B selection, so you can vary or compare two different EQs. There's a settings page here, which is really simple. It's just about the graphics mode. And there's one thing here: when you reset the size of the display, if you set a size that works well, you could save that as the current window default size for all instantiations that you open up. And that's kind of a handy thing once you kind of figure it out, so you're not always fumbling back to whatever random size is just set as the preset size. Then you have some of the normal things that allow you access to the menu, the manuals, and all of that sort of stuff. You have an output gain control. We have a frequency display graph right in the middle. It's a 7-band EQ. Within each of the 7 bands, you can select exactly the filter type that you want to work with. I'm going to get to that in a second. Down on the lower display, because we have input levels here, we have output levels here, and a makeup gain or make down gain control, depending upon what you're doing with the EQ. You could bypass the whole plugin here. You have the A/B select over here. In this section, you could operate it as an MS EQ or in a stereo EQ, and ganged would link the two channels. Otherwise, you could operate them independent of each other. There's also an analyzer built in that you could turn on or off here. And right next to that is a little settings cog. I'm going to zoom in here just for some of the settings. And this allows you to perform some basic features like copying A to B, B to A, channel 1 to channel 2 if they're not ganged, or channel 2 to channel 1. So you could work both ways in that regard. Or if you find that you opened up an EQ and you turn the ganging off and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I want to copy the settings over to the other side. Boom, done right there. Analyzer can display input or output. There's a tilt on the EQ. This is just a basically tilt on the equalization curve. Some people like to set this to like +3, is probably more mimics our hearing than the flat curve that's here, but it's just a tilt on the analyzer display. That's pretty much all that is. And then you got some speed options here of whether you want to, hold average, hold peak, slow or fast in terms of the responsiveness of the analyzer, so whatever works for you there. And there's 2 display types. There's the white Weiss display type, which is a little bit too bright for me, and I like the Dunkel one here, which is darker. And there's this also sneaky little extra menu here that allows you to open up for options, like when you open up the band menu. When I show that to you in a second, you'll see exactly what I mean. When you select a band up here and click on it, what way do you have to click in order to open up the band menu, the little box that opens up that allows you to change the filter types? There's also a little question mark here. This is great because it actually gives you a quick guide for some of the shortcuts, right? Clicking on the dot will show the band's controls. Double click will turn the band on and off. Option click, etc. Right? Reset the band gain to 0. And all of the other options, command drag with the scroll wheel. And this will change, obviously, if you're on a Windows system, it'll do the translation for that. So you have all the different options that are in here, including soloing the band. When you actually work with the EQ itself, It's pretty straightforward. You actually pick any of the bands here, right? So this one here is an EQ. Let me just kind of zoom in out here. If I click on this, I'll open up the band window, which I can drag and move around any place. I'm going to zoom in on this for a second here. So what this does in this band, it allows me to select the filter type, right? So high pass, low pass, bell curve, right? I'm sorry, high shelf, low shelf, excuse me, or low shelf, high shelf. I'll get it right sooner or later. High pass, low pass. And then, of course, from here, I can actually sweep the frequency, set the order of the filter, if that's the case, or adjust the Q, right? So that way I can create a resonance here with the shelving EQ, or if it's this, obviously I can narrow or widen up. And it goes extremely narrow, right? Right down to like a notch EQ. So you have an extraordinary amount of control. You could turn the band on or off, pretty straightforward. You could also solo the band, right? And it opens up this display showing you exactly what frequency area you're selecting. Keep in mind that if it only gives you that content, the volume is going to go way down, right? So that's not compensated in any kind of way. And that's the basics of it, right? So let's move along and get to some audio examples. It's really an amazing sounding EQ. I just loaded up a few instantiations on a handful of tracks here that we can kind of go through. First one is the bass track. Or let's start with the kick drum track first, right? So let's start with the kick drum track. So here with the kick drum track, let me just open this display up a little bit. Here, first thing I'll probably focus in on will be the fundamental frequency. So, all right, so I want to change the band type, right? So I'm just holding the command key. Now, one other thing here that's a little sneaky display here, I can actually increase or decrease the gain. So you could see the amount of gain structure right here on the left-hand side. These numbers here are for the meter on the left. So I'm boosting this quite dramatically. Right, so I go with the narrow Q here just to kind of get, again, it's a pretty dramatic boost, but just get a bit of focus in on the fundamental, and then I can change the overall, width of it just to kind of decide how, rich I want to make that, or how pointed or how focused I want to make it around that. So warm it up there. Or make it really tight. So I like this kind of tight, so I'm going to keep it there. Maybe I'll chase on the bottom end here with a, let me just put that on there, chase this on the bottom end. So you can see the frequency displayed up here, also on the display here. Right, and then I could also do a dip here in the mids, like somewhere, in the 200s. Maybe give it a little attack here. It'd be something in the 1K range. All right, now let me play around here with the bass sound, kind of work with that. All right, so I can see here, maybe do like a kind of a resonance here. So I'm using the command key just to create a little resonance. All right, so just driving into that, and then I'm going to find like a nice little boost point to kind of bring that note out a little bit, maybe somewhere around 800 or so. Okay, so now let me move along here. I got, see, maybe I'll focus in on a vocal track. Let's kind of dive right into that.
You're trying,
Right, I'm going to take, oh, sorry, I think I have an EQ still left on here. So I'm going to go back to the original sound, and let's just kind of focus on this straight up so we can hear this fully in action.
you're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could.
All right, so I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Oops, sorry. Got to let go of the mouse. Okay, here we go.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell.
Right, so you can hear there's a lot of low end energy here. I'm just going to kind of dial this in, right? I'm going to move this up maybe into the low hundreds.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell.
Get rid of that rumble, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like an overall shelf here. See if I can create a shelf, like a low
You're
shelf
trying, you lost me,
and a high shelf here, so I can kind of create a little crossover point to get the overall tone a little better.
you're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Okay.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell.
Maybe what I'll do here is I'll kind of push a little bit into the low end, just kind of tilt that up a little bit.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
All right, I'm gonna push this a little bit more here on the top end, but I'm gonna make this a little bit softer, a little bit more tilted.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
I could also frame the top of this with a tight cue here. And let's put this on here, frame this with a tight cue just to sort of, frame the top end a little bit. So
you're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Right, got a little bit of that muffliness, kind of bring out a little bit more presence in it overall, and then we'll dial in some compression to kind of make that kind of come together a little bit better. All right, so now we have that, we have the bass, we have the kick drum. Let's work on the clap sound.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell. You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and
this might be another good one where I can go ahead in and put this band on here with a tight cue on the top end.
you're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you
Move
tell.
that out of the way.
The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Maybe push a little more presence into that.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
And then we have a keyboard sound here.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and
So I'm going to just tighten up the low end a little bit here.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you. You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
Okay, let me work on the EQ on the vocal a little bit more, because I'm not happy with this at all, but let's just see if I can dial something a little bit better in here.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell.
Maybe make it a little bit more balanced.
The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like.
Be a little bit smoother on it here.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
I'm going to lift this low end a little bit more.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
I want to leave that one
You
out.
make me feel love like on your best stuff. I feel so in touch, but without your boy. You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies.
Let's hear that in the track.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell.
That's a lot better.
The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
So here you can see just like the flexibility. The sound is really amazing. You know, I find it very easy to work with. It seems very transparent with the sound. It's not adding any kind of tonal coloration, which is really what you kind of want out of a digital EQ. If you're looking for a tonal coloration, then go to a vintage EQ or something that is going to give you more harmonic characteristics. But in terms of ease of use, flexibility of options, you're limited to 7 bands. That might be something that you kind of would like to see more of. I think more or less it's rare that I find myself using more than 7 bands. If you have that big of a problem, it might be other things, other remedies that you have to take other than, having 32 bands on a vocal or something like that. But it does give you the ability to do certain things if you're into like notching out frequencies, taking any band, that you want and really just, dialing in, that frequency here. Let me see if I can scroll it down, getting like super ultra narrow there. You can really go in and find and notch out frequencies. So just that flexibility or that ability to really kind of dial in and notch out stuff, if that's the kind of thing that you're into. That's not really, I don't really get into that so much, but obviously it's a feature having that flexibility between there and very wide, and then also just having that range of Q with the ability to basically more or less create kind of a tilt EQ on that top end, which seems to really help here, making this kind of come together or glue together a little bit better. But great EQ. I picked it up and from the first go with it, loaded it up, started using it. It's like, wow, this works really well. I normally just pick up a plugin, load it up, and start using it and see what I can naturally figure out. And I seem to connect with it right away. It seems to have a lot of similar kind of properties to what you see with a lot of the other EQs in terms of just the graphic user interface design and the way that it's workable. So I think they've done a really great job with it on that end. Just the simple slider on the top end, the flexibility with having the AB, the different MS mode, channel 1 and channel 2, being able to do them up separately. Analyzer looks great. And you get the different colored bands here for each of the different types of EQ, which should help you to kind of get used to that. I really dig it. I'm going to do a whole mix with one of these things soon. I have something where I wanted to do like something ultra clean, and I'm looking forward to checking it out to see how it comes out as far as an overall mix. But so far, just like quickly going through it, I really love it, really dig the results. So check it out. It might be worth a demo at least. And if it's something that you're into, check it out. I know some of the Weiss EQ stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the Weiss collection there. It's really top-notch stuff, and although a little pricey, really, to me, worth it, especially on the mastering side of things. But here, for mixing use, this is also a great plugin. There you have it. Plugin of the week, Softube Weiss EQ MP.